Okay, I'd like to use this as a backdrop to discuss the biblical story of Samson. And a lot of people poo-poo Samson, say he's a metaphor for the sun, the people that believe in astrotheology. And the Victor Mature movie has colored our interpretation of the Samson movie, and I actually like that movie a whole lot. But one of the mistakes made in it is, one of the things that Samson's known for is killing a lion with his bare hands. Excuse me. Remember the story of Samson. Samson lived in the highlands. He was of the tribe of Dan, and in the highlands of Judea in ancient Israel, there were no African lions. However, at the time, there were this kind of critter. Now, this is alternately called a mountain lion, a puma, mountain lion. It's also just called a lion also. But they're mistakenly, the Victor Mature movie is showing an African lion, which is several thousand miles away in equatorial Africa. So that's a totally different animal than this. David even talks about killing the lion and the wolf when he was shepherding his sheep. So this is the kind of lion that Samson killed with his bare hands, which is in the purview of a strong man. I don't want to really hurt an animal, but I could probably take one out. And I'm not Samson. I'm close, but I'm not Samson. There have been instances where people have killed African lions with their bare hands. There was a very famous karate guy called his nickname was the Golden Cat, Yamaguchi, and he was taken prisoner, and they tried to break his spirit by beating him, but he was a karate master, and he wouldn't even acknowledge their beating of him. And so they put him in a cage with a tiger, and he choked the tiger out. So I do know the way to kill a large cat with your bare hands. You only have about a 1 or 2% chance in 100, and you better be athletic to do it. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. You can probably figure it out. But that's really your only chance against them. When you get a full-grown lion, African lion, or a tiger, you're talking, something that outweighs you 2-to-1. Yes, sometimes you can win, but generally it's going to be just like the mouse, just like the giant rat can sometimes chase away the cat. But this is the lion that Samson killed with his bare hand. It wasn't the African lion. Another thing to keep in mind, this is kind of a good representation of the elevation that Samson would have been at. Ancient Israel had basically was split into 4 biomes, and where Samson lived was the top in the hill country. He lived way up there. Well, now it wasn't like Rocky Mountains high, but if you lived up there all your life, you would gain the altitude advantage in training, where you had slightly more blood in your body, and it was altitude trained compared to people in the plains. If you read really all the accounts, Samson mainly hung out in the highlands. There was an in-between area, and then the flat plains where the cities were, where he did most of his strength feats, like where he tore the gates off, walked off with the gates, and things of that nature. He spent most of his time in the highlands, and he never really detrained from the higher altitude advantage that he got. He also ate a very clean diet that was mainly vegetarian. I like to address one other thing talked about in Samson that is kind of a problem for people. where he grabbed the foxes together and tied their tails together and lit them on fire. The 1611 King James Bible, you need to get a copy of it. Now it's in Middle English. It's hard to read, and there's really the only reason to really get it is to read the foreword. And 200 men were commissioned by King James for the 1611 Bible, and they admit in this foreword that they didn't know what the words were for. There's only 6,000. Less than 6,000 words in ancient Hebrew. Excuse me, Middle Hebrew. There was also a Proto-Hebrew, and the context of the sentence changed the meaning of certain words. They didn't know what a jackal was in England when they were translating it. So, but the word described an animal that looked like that. So they didn't know what a jackal was, so they changed it to fox, which is kind of like a jackal, but a fox is a solitary hunter. Jackals stay in big groups, and they've already done experiments with it. You can actually catch, it wouldn't be that hard to catch 20 foxes and tie their tails together and light a fire between them and let them go off and to start, a terrorist activity, basically. Another non-related to Samson misinterpretation. It isn't a misinterpretation. People have just added is the word unicorn. The unicorn was a rhino. I've covered this in a couple of other videos, and I actually have a copy of a book. It's a reprint, but it's an exact copy of a book from the 1690s where it talks about how the unicorn sometimes would beat an elephant, and it's talking about a rhino, and the word's gotten changed to a horse with a horn in it. But anyway, keep that in mind when you're reading it, and don't let traditions color you. Let the Bible speak to you. Thank you. I'm out.